Soon, Qinfeng checked Vickley's memory all the way to the end. From Vickley's perspective, he appeared in this place of judgment. Then he raised his head when he saw the figure in white robes on the white jade platform. His eyes hurt and he knelt on the spot. This scene also surprised Qinfeng a little. Ancient God servant. Hongfeng narrowed his eyes. This guy has some vision. But, logically speaking, based on this guy's memory and experience, he should not have been exposed to this level. How does he know that Ashasis' level is above the ancient God servant? Qinfeng checked the memory of the six-fingered wizard completely. The only explanation is, there is a part of the memory that Qinfeng did not check. Even the six-fingered wizard himself can't recall it. Then, could it be the time when this guy was exiled to Blue Star? But the God-forsaken game of Blue Star had not yet begun. Vickley's memory of that time was completely dark. But it feels like decades, or even hundreds of years have passed. What did he come into contact with during this time? This is another puzzle. It is very likely that this part of the memory was erased. Just like Qin Xiaoyu, her memory of the previous life was originally erased, but was saved by Ashasis and sent back to the depths of her memory. If it weren't for Ashasis, if Qinfeng judged Qin Xiaoyu and checked Qin Xiaoyu's memory, he would only be able to see her memory of this life, but not her memory of the previous life. So, the memories of the six-fingered wizard that were hidden were all his memories of his previous life, even memories of the previous life. Between being exiled and the God-forsaken game on Blue Star, he had experienced many deaths, and during this period, only the information about the ancient gods and their servants left a very deep impression on him, causing him to react from the depths of his soul all at once. These speculations are reasonable. But speculations are just speculations after all, and they are not necessarily facts. After Qinfeng read the memories of the six-fingered wizard, the doubts in his mind were not eliminated, but became more and more confused. Let's judge this guy first. According to the content of this guy's existing memory, his various cruel behaviors against other people are not too serious. Sins in Qinfeng's eyes. But the key is that this guy finally tried to kill Qinfeng, released Nightmare Dragon Impact, and Withering Field. If it weren't for the existence of Shadow Arc, he would have successfully hurt Qinfeng. So, this problem is very serious. He got into trouble directly. The result of the trial of Six-Fingered Wizard Vickery was that he was sent to the dark area for imprisonment, and his consciousness or soul was trapped in an infinite loop. He began to experience the cyclic punishment of the oil pan. The punishment was not too severe, but the key is that this guy is very strong, much stronger than the current Blue Star players. So, the result of the trial directly brought Qinfeng 57 points of divinity limit, 57% increase in basic attributes. Not bad. Qinfeng was quite satisfied. When the group of Qianju players were tried before, the last few were added by a few tenths of a tenth. And this six-fingered wizard did not disappoint Qinfeng. It directly increased at a nearly 200 points of divinity limit. Then, it's okay to try the Killing Executioner. Qinfeng did not hesitate. Directly dragged the Killing Executioner Diarbad, imprisoned in the surrounding dark space, into the trial process. Start checking his memory. And the situation of this fat executioner is completely different from that of the six-fingered wizard. The executioner is a mid-level NPC anyway. In theory, it is much stronger than the six-fingered wizard, but I don't feel much difference in combat power, Qinfeng thought to himself. If he is not immune to the instant death of Fix, then this executioner can still cause him some trouble. In other words, letting the executioner fight the six-fingered wizard has a high chance of winning. But the strength gap between these two NPCs is not as big as imagined. So, why is one a low-level NPC and the other a mid-level NPC? The answer lies in, from the memory of this executioner, Qinfeng learned that since the time this guy was born, his planet or civilization had been several years after the advent of the God-forsaken game. Fuck! What is this second generation strong? Qinfeng was shocked when he saw the experience of Diarbad. Diarbad was born in the 4th year of the God-forsaken game in his civilization. His parents were both among the strongest in a certain regime of that civilization. At that time, his parents were already level 35 after giving birth to him. They had no time to take care of him and directly left him to the elders in the guilds. Due to the noble status of his parents, Diarbad grew up very smoothly. This kid has been arrogant and domineering since he was a child. He has been walking sideways in their guild and even the entire civilization. His turning point was in the 9th year of the God-forsaken game. Of course, this year is converted into the year of Blue Star. In fact, this is the 12th year in this civilization, due to the influence of the planet's revolution and rotation. 1 year in this civilization is approximately equal to 0.75 years of Blue Star. But it doesn't matter. In short, when Qinfeng checked his memory, he used the year of Blue Star as the basis. It was also in this year that something big happened. The game and reality are beginning to merge, and in the process of merging, there are countless monsters descending into the world, launching fierce attacks on player guilds, hideouts, and even cities. If he were to check someone else's memory, Qinfeng might not know it very clearly. He might even not understand it very well. But this kid Diarbad is of noble status. His parents are both beings who have reached the land of order, although he was only 5 years old at the time. He was the son of a strong man after all, so his basic attributes and foundation were much stronger than those of ordinary people. I still remember what happened at that time. So, when the game and reality began to merge, his parents told him everything. The advent of the godforsaken game is a process. When it first came, the players of the civilization had 9 years to develop. In the 9th year, the game and reality began to merge. At this time, there was a test and challenge for the entire civilization, that is, the Monster Siege. In the next year, there will be countless monsters. Epic, legendary, mythical, and even stronger, constantly attacking the civilization. If it can hold on for a year without being destroyed, then the civilization will sublimate, get rid of reincarnation, and become a sublimated civilization. But if it is destroyed within a year, then the civilization will return to the moment when the godforsaken game came, clear the memories of all players, and start all over again. This discovery shocked Qinfeng directly. His spiritual attribute is very high, and his thinking speed is very fast. He immediately thought of his own situation. It turns out that my rebirth is not my rebirth alone, but our entire Blue Star civilization all started again together. It's just because of the authority of judgment. I retained my memory. It's conceivable. When Qinfeng was gouged out and died, it didn't take long for Blue Star to start the fusion of games and reality. Countless monsters attacked Blue Star. Judging from the current situation, the Blue Star players failed in that monster attack. So, Qinfeng was not reborn immediately after his death. Instead, after his death, Blue Star experienced the process of being attacked by monsters, and then the entire civilization was destroyed. Perhaps Qin Xiaoyu in the previous life experienced this process completely. I don't know how long she lived after I died. Qinfeng shook his head and temporarily put this question behind him. He was still checking the memory of Slaughter Executioner Diarbud in his memory. He was only 5 years old that year. He had never entered the godforsaken game, but he saw that the whole world was about to fall apart. Countless monsters surged out from the darkness. Countless strong men from all over the world stood up to resist the almost boundless ocean of monsters. Suddenly, Qinfeng thought of something. Oh my god, this scene seems familiar. Qinfeng patted Osirio next to him. Osirio, the king of Bonesword Pterosaurs. At that time, it led the Bonesword Pterosaur tribe to destroy a city. What was the city called? Qinfeng checked Osirio's panel. 10,000 years ago, the city of Squeam was destroyed by a group of predators from the sky. Millions of humans died, and the murderer had no regrets. Squeam City. Qinfeng didn't know which civilization city this was, but it was conquered by Osirio 10,000 years ago, and millions of humans were slaughtered by it. This happened when the game merged with reality. But in Osirio's wave that year, did the monsters win, or did the humans win? It was turned into a mount and sealed into a reward with such harsh conditions. I was the only one who achieved it in 10,000 years. So it became my mount. Could it be that the monster failed and made the civilization a sublimated civilization? So all the attacking monsters were punished? Osirio's memory before becoming a mount was already very vague. Even this guy only remembered that it had many princesses. If you want to ask it questions about this, it's impossible to get an answer. But that Squeam City is too weak. It was actually conquered by an epic monster with its tribe. So weak. Of course, this is just Qinfeng's random thought. After all, he didn't know how high Osirios' level was back then. Although it was epic. If the level was too high, the combat power would also be very strong. Not to mention that it was with a tribe, no one knew how large the Bonesword Pterosaur tribe was. If there were tens of millions of Bonesword Pterosaurs, it would be really hard for human players to withstand it. According to Qinfeng's memory, the situation of Blue Star's development for 9 years was difficult to resist the attack of such a terrifying monster tribe. Epic monsters were only secondary. The key is the size of the monster tribe. And in Diabad's memory, Qinfeng also saw a scene that shocked him. In the impression of Diabad, who was 5 years old, there were no more than 10 players in the world who went to the Land of Order like his parents. But when that day, reality and the game began to merge, from the void, dozens of strong men of the same level as his parents came. These strong men claimed to be from their civilization, but no one knew them. Even after they arrived, they found many of the so-called family members, but their families were all confused. There was no such person in their family. Then people were told these strong men were all strong men who had set foot in the Land of Order in the failed reincarnation of the civilization. And when reality and the game began to merge, if they chose to return and help the civilization resist the tide of monsters, it means that they would live and die with the civilization, even if they have already arrived in the Land of Order. But if they are destroyed together with the civilization, they will have to start all over again. And this group of dozens of strong men who returned were the ones who had failed in the reincarnation, did not choose to come back to help civilization resist the monster tide. This is their strategy. If civilization wants to sublimate, it must continue to resist the monster tide for a year. It is extremely difficult. Then, they can stay in the Land of Order with a few more people in each reincarnation. And when the number of people is large, they can come back to help civilization overcome difficulties together. If you choose not to come back and live and die with civilization, then even if civilization is destroyed, they will not be affected in the Land of Order. The only impact is that everyone in their civilization will lose their memory of them. They will be erased from everyone's memory and vision at the beginning of the next reincarnation, or create an illusion that they have already died. See here. Qinfeng has completely understood why Tang Jun is gone. The master of Tianzhu, Tuchar, is also gone. They arrived at the Land of Order in their previous life, but when reality and the game merge, they did not choose to come back to help. So, their existence was erased from Blue Star. No matter how hard you search, you can't find their information, or you will find that they died before the godforsaken game came. On the contrary, Steina Moser, who also arrived in the Land of Order in the previous life, and You Are Dead from the Magic City, chose to come back and live and die with the humans of Blue Star. Unfortunately, they failed in the end, so they were also involved in the 10-year reincarnation of the entire civilization. Everything starts again. However, when civilization reincarnates, there are certain similarity rules. Some people's fate seems to be predetermined. Qin Xiaoyu was a life sacrifice in the previous life, and this life is also. Regarding this aspect, Clan Feng plans to ask Ashashis later. In addition, according to this rule, the civilization where Diarbad is located handles it very well. More people stay in the Land of Order in one reincarnation, and then return together to help the entire civilization sublimate, thus breaking away from reincarnation. Why is Blue Star not like this? But some people come back and some don't. Qin Feng didn't think it was unreasonable. There must be some problems, and these problems were related to the situation in the Land of Order. Now I know all the situation. If I ask Ashashis again, she won't hide it anymore. Right? Qin Feng couldn't help thinking. I deleted the speculation at the end of the previous chapter because it caused ambiguity. The truth is right in front of us. Qin Feng chose to finish watching the scene in front of him first, and perhaps there would be more discoveries. Diabad's memory continued to appear in front of him like a movie scene. With the joint efforts of dozens of strong men who returned from the Land of Order, their civilization resisted the attack of the monster tide that lasted for a year, but in the process, someone died after the civilization was sublimated. The reality of the civilization was completely integrated with the game, and it left the Wandering Land and arrived in a new field. This civilization will no longer reincarnate. The dead can no longer be resurrected, including Diabad's mother. She was a great mother and a hero of their civilization. When the civilization was sublimated, her name became a monument to the entire civilization. In such an environment, Diabad continued to grow up. At the age of 5, the world he was in, reality and game merged. So, he didn't have to wait until he was 18 years old and directly got a career in talent. He was determined to become stronger, to be like his father and mother, and to kill all the monsters to avenge his mother. But as he grew stronger and grew up, he found that the world was different from what he imagined. He thought that his father and mother were the greatest parents in the world. They loved each other. They stayed together. But after his mother died, his father found women one after another. These women became his stepmothers. Although they took good care of him, Diabad's anger still accumulated in his heart. He was not stingy with his disgust and exclusion of these women. In his opinion, the existence of these women insulted his mother, so when he was 10 years old, he hired people to join him and killed all these women, leaving no one alive. When his father learned the news, he was furious. He came back from other places and imprisoned him after all. He was his son, and he was reluctant to kill him. So he wanted to imprison Diabad and make him admit his mistake. But this kid didn't apologize at all. They all deserve to die. You killed them, Diabad said to his father with red eyes. So, this imprisonment lasted for 5 years. 5 years passed, and in order to escape from the cage, Diabad finally pretended to admit his mistake, so his father was very happy, released him, and rearranged bodyguards and other things to protect him when he went out to level up. But not long after, Diabad asked someone to check his father, and found that during the 5 years he was in prison, his father had found several women again. But in order to take care of his emotion, he didn't tell him, nor did he make it public. Even after he was released, these things were still hidden. Fuck. Awesome. Qin Feng was a little shocked. Is this too much? Now, Diabad was even more angry. He found another opportunity to kill all those women. This time, Diabad did it very secretly. But there was no way. He could not escape his father's pursuit no matter how secretive he was, so his father couldn't stand it anymore. He was brought directly to a pure holy monument. It seemed that some authority of the pure holy monument was activated, and then a series of holy lights enveloped Diabad. The fat boy went directly into darkness, just like Vikri, who had just been judged. It was unknown how long it had passed in the darkness when Diabad opened his eyes again. He had become the killing executioner of the Blue Star civilization. He was exiled to other civilizations as an NPC by his father. From then on, he would live and die with this civilization. Before the 9th year, he needed to assume the responsibilities of an NPC and complete his performance. In the 9th year, he entered the spectator mode. If the Blue Star was destroyed, his memory would be erased and he would enter reincarnation with the Blue Star. If the Blue Star was successfully sublimated, he would have a chance to return to the original civilization. Of course, it was just a chance. Diabad had not experienced the specific process, so Qin Feng could not know it. But there must be a set of operating rules in it. This kid is a bit outrageous. Qin Feng couldn't help but sigh after reading Diarbad's memory. To be honest, I don't know whether I should judge him and trap him here, but for the sake of my own godhood limit, I'd better judge him first. The civilization he belongs to is a war civilization. It's the civilization where the second place in the ranking list in the Temple of Death belongs. But it seems that his father has nothing to do with the Temple of Death and coming back from the Land of Order. Seems that there is no bloodline of the Deathwing Angel among the strong men who helped. Qinfeng was a little cautious about this, but there is definitely no answer from Diabade's memory. It must be said that Diabade and Vickley's situations are completely different. The environment they live in, the experiences from childhood to adulthood, and even the personality are too different. Qinfeng can't actually understand the six-fingered wizard Vickley. 6 fingers are nothing in Ardaxia, but in his civilization, it is regarded as a symbol of bad luck, despised by everyone, and even abandoned since birth. With such an experience and sudden stimulation, it is possible to do anything. However, this guy subsequently tortured and killed many innocent passersby, which is why Qinfeng could not agree with him. After all, every wrong has its perpetrator, even some girls like him, but he still tortured and killed others. I can only say that he should be tried. And Diabade, the situation is even more different. For the sake of his dead mother, he killed all the women his father had later. Even Qinfeng found it difficult to judge, is this guy good or evil, if he could not beat his father? Would this kid even kill his father? Qinfeng pressed his forehead. In short, let's try him first. Although the story is a bit sad, but the fat boy is only a trial target of Qinfeng after all. Trial completed. Ma. The basic attribute of Blade of Judgment is increased by 42%. Ma. The divinity limit of Blade of Judgment is increased by 42 points. Ma. Good benefits? Now the divinity limit of the Blade of Judgment has reached 234 points, and the basic attribute has increased by 224%. It's not far from the 300-point divinity limit of Qin Xiaoyu's trial. Just find a few lucky NPCs to judge. Qinfeng checked. It took him 30,000 years of life to judge these 2 NPCs, which was not too much. However, this life is really not durable. Originally, it was 260,000 years of life. Now there are only 150,000 left. Continuously judging that group of Tianju player, plus these 2 NPC, directly consumed 100,000 years of life. Moreover, the later the Judgment Blade is, the harder it is to upgrade. For example, just now, the Judgment of Diabade gave 42 points of divinity limit, but if there is another identical Diabade to judge Qinfeng now, the life consumed is the same. But the divinity limit given is probably less than 20 points. Anyway, this trial is finally completed, although it answered many questions. But it seems that more questions have arisen. Qinfeng had a headache. Just then, Ashasis came to his side, looked at him with pale golden eyes, and chuckled. Have you finished reading the Executioner's memory? Intermediate NPCs are individuals from sublimated civilizations, but have not reached the Land of Order. Now, if the heir has any questions, I can answer them for you. Qinfeng was a little surprised when he heard what Ashashi said. Do you really answer all questions? Ashashi's light golden eyes showed a smile. Don't have any bad thoughts. Qinfeng coughed and said seriously, how could it be? Do you think I am the dragon next door? Osirio was still squatting beside with the gray chicken. He was confused when he heard this. No, I am sitting at home, and the pot came from the sky. Gray chicken? This is really not a pot, huh? Halfway through, the gray chicken's neck was grabbed by Osirio. A dragon and a phoenix immediately wrestled together. Qinfeng held his forehead and ignored the two. He pulled Ashashi to the side to avoid the battlefield. Then he asked, if the civilization is destroyed in the process of the fusion game and enters a new reincarnation, if there is no accident, will the player's experience be exactly the same as in the previous life? This question was what he was thinking about just now. For example, Qin Xiaoyu was a life sacrificer in both his last life and this life. Stina's profession and talent have not changed from the last life. The most typical example is the Sakura country. The development process and trajectory are almost exactly the same as in the last life. Ashaxizi smiled and nodded. The changes in the reincarnation of civilization come from variables without variables. There will be no changes. And in general, the variables of the reincarnation of civilization come from the number of people who arrived in the Land of Order in the last life. Every player who chooses to stay in the Land of Order will disappear from the civilization records after the reincarnation of civilization. This is one of the variables. Qinfeng roughly understood after hearing this. Take the Tianju country, for example. The Master Tukar in the last life did not come back after arriving at the Land of Order. So the Tianju country in this life has a Master Bajar who did not exist in the last life. Originally, this Bajar would be one of the strongest people in the Tianju country in this life. Of course, this guy is now a prisoner in the Land of Judgment. Once someone stays in the Land of Order, it will be a variable for the next reincarnation of civilization, thereby changing the next reincarnation of the civilization, even if there is only a small variable. The impact may not be seen in the early stage, but in the middle and late stages, it will definitely lead to a completely different development direction of the entire civilization. At the same time, Qinfeng still noticed a lot of contradictions. He asked, according to the information I have learned now, although the sublimation of civilization can get rid of reincarnation, this may not be a good thing. In reincarnation, the players of this civilization can be resurrected after death, and more powerful people in the Land of Order can be born in cycles. But if sublimated, the players of this civilization will die. From a personal point of view, the situation of the war civilization next door is a bit unrealistic. Some people, even if they go to the Land of Order, but come back to find that their relatives did not live to the 9th year, will they still firmly promote the sublimation of civilization? This is also a question Qinfeng just thought about. After the sublimation of civilization, it means that the dead can no longer be resurrected. It is very unrealistic to want to gather so many strong men from the Land of Order to help with the sublimation, like the war civilization. For example, A is a strong man from the Land of Order, and he originally planned to cooperate with the strongmen to return to help with the sublimation. But when he returned, he saw, in this reincarnation, his wife died. Or in this reincarnation, since A's existence was erased, either disappeared or died, his wife may have found another man in this life. In this case, will A still be willing to promote the sublimation of civilization and let the ending of the entire civilization be fixed in this reincarnation? Regarding this, Ashashi smiled and said, humans are indeed complicated. Whether they come back or not, they all have their own positions and considerations. In this matter, civilization cannot be viewed as a whole. Each individual is very complicated, and the situation is completely different. Some people don't come back because they are afraid that they will not be able to achieve their current achievements if they come again. But some people don't come back to accumulate strength and prepare for the future sublimation of civilization. As for the benefits of civilization, sublimation, it is too important. Of course, the specific situation will only be known when you arrive at the Land of Order. Hearing this, Qinfeng was a little amused. He couldn't help but sigh. It seems that your essence is a riddle man. Once she mentioned some rules of the godforsaken game, she stopped talking. Ashashi smiled and shook her head, but didn't say anything. Qinfeng saw some helplessness in her light golden eyes. Maybe she doesn't. I don't want to talk about it. But it's limited by certain rules, just like before. Before Qinfeng checked his memory and learned the truth about the reincarnation of civilization. She couldn't discuss this with him. Language may be restricted by the rules. But if I check other people's memories, she will discuss it with me, and there will be no problem. This level is still too high. Qinfeng can't understand it for the time being, so he simply doesn't think about it. Then, he looked at the dark space around him. The players who were trapped and punished in this place of judgment. These people have been judged. If civilization reincarnates, can they return to the beginning? Ashashi shook her head. It is their consciousness that is judged unless you give an order. They will be trapped here forever. If civilization reincarnates, they will be like those who choose to stay in the Land of Order. Their traces of existence will be erased from the real world. Then, Anfeng asked more small questions. One by one, he got the answers from Ashashi. For example, can the people being judged still be released? What are the conditions for sending people out of the Land of Judgment? And so on. The answer is that the Land of Judgment belongs to Qinfeng's power. As long as the divinity is sufficient, any operation can be achieved. Finally, Qinfeng looked at the killing executioner Diarbad, who had been punished in the oil pan in the dark space. Through his memory, Qinfeng knew that he really wanted his mother to be resurrected. He resented his father because his father still helped promote the sublimation of civilization after his mother's death, which made his mother lose the possibility of resurrection. But from his father's perspective, the sublimation of civilization is the general trend, and he alone can't stop it. How can one person resist so many people? If the resistance fails, then after the sublimation of civilization, their entire family will be destroyed. Qinfeng can't say that his father is wrong, nor can he say that his father doesn't love his mother. Sacrificing the entire civilization to resurrect a lover, and even dragging dozens of strongmen from the Land of Order into the water re-entering reincarnation. Such a story is certainly romantic. But from another perspective, if the civilization sublimation really fails and everything starts over, then there will be no Diarbad. Because with the return of dozens of strong people from the Land of Order, there are too many variables in the development of civilization, and Diarbad may not be reborn. Never mind. Qinfeng shook his head and put it behind him. If he wants to know more about the Land of Order, he can either go to the Land of Order in person or check the memory of a higher level NPC. However, high level NPCs are those who have reached the Land of Order. For example, Sister Yuan's level. If I really want to judge an NPC of this level, it will be very difficult. Let's not talk about whether I can beat them or not. At least, my current limit of divinity is definitely not enough. So, Qinfeng decided to put this matter to an end. At least, he learned about the information about the sublimation of civilization and reincarnation. This time, next, Qinfeng plans to go to the Tower of Divine Power outside the ruins of the Magic City and send his mother Virginie to the Land of Judgment. Judge her first and check her memory. If there is no problem, use some more divinity to release her. Of course, there is one more thing to do before setting off. Qinfeng returned to the hideout of the Evil Spirit Academy in the game and took out the Abyss Vase. Abyss Vase. Hanfeng has already taken out 3 skills from this vase, namely, Abyss Withering Curse, Abyss Slow Curse, Abyss Silence Curse, for his current development speed, to evolve the Abyss skills to the Ancient level. Only more than 3. Zeros and evolution points are not too much. Come on. Qinfeng's previous 3 Abyss skills are already Ancient level, and the negative effects have been eliminated. He confirmed again and again that he did not have any negative status related to the Abyss. Then he reached his hand into the Abyss Vase again. You stare into the Abyss, touch the Abyss. You have obtained the skill Abyss Puppet Curse Epic level. Gentai. The moment Qinfeng heard the system prompt, his heartbeat accelerated. Abyss Puppet. Finally got it. Before, he thought that if he could get this skill, his leveling speed would take off directly. Let's see the effect. Qinfeng had only heard about this skill in his previous life and had never really seen it. Open the panel to check it out. Abyss Puppet Curse Epic. Abyss Curse skill. No occupational restrictions. Release it on a corpse to transform the corpse into an abyss puppet that is completely under your control. Abyss Puppet. Inherits all skills and equipment that the corpse had before it died that were not higher than epic level. Then, you are closer to the abyss? Note, only one puppet can exist at the same time. The skill introduction is very simple. Qinfeng thought about it, and first consumed 10 plus 200 evolution points to evolve it twice. Abyss Puppet Curse Epic arrive Legendary arrive Mythical. Abyss Curse skill. No occupational restrictions. Release it on a corpse to transform the corpse into an abyss puppet that is completely under your control. Abyss Puppet. Inherits all skills and equipment of the corpse that are not higher than epic level arrive legendary level arrive mythical level. Madam. New effect of legendary level. 2 puppets can exist at the same time, but they cannot be puppets of the same unit. New effect of mythical level. 3 puppets can exist at the same time, but they cannot be puppets of the same unit. You are closer to the abyss. This evolution effect seems to be useless for the time being. Qinfeng was a little disappointed. It is good to be able to make more puppets, but you cannot make puppets of the same unit? That is to say, Qinfeng can only make 1 puppet of himself, and the other 2 puppets can only be made for other people. If you encounter an NPC that can fight a little, maybe you can make them into puppets. But in that case, you need to keep their bodies. I can't send them to the place of judgment when I kill them. Either turn into a puppet or judge. Choose one of the 2, of course. The temporary benefit of evolving this skill to the mythical level is that it can allow the puppet to inherit mythical equipment and skills at most. It still needs to evolve to the ancient level. Qinfeng consumed 3,000 evolution points. When this skill evolves to the ancient level, except for the immortal level and the original primary level, everything can be inherited, and the combat power is already good. Ancient level is fine. In terms of skills, only the Gift of Liberation, the Source of the upper level, and the Shadow Warp are immortal level, which cannot be copied. Even without these 3 skills, it is still no problem to use them for daily monster hunting. But if you want to use it to fight boss, you still have to evolve this skill to the immortal level. What's more, the Blade of Judgment in Qinfeng's hand is the original primary divine weapon, and this puppet will definitely not inherit it. So when making a puppet, Qinfeng needs to change a weapon, and more attributes are better. As for the role of the puppet, Qinfeng mainly uses it to kill monsters, improve your own leveling speed. Originally, he had a great demand for experience points. Not only did he have to consider the 5th career advancement, but he also had to upgrade to level 35 and use it to evolve the Deathwing Angel bloodline. So the more experience points, the better. Fortunately, the Ancient Shadow Blade can be infinitely projected. Make a puppet. Put it in a leveling point where monsters spawn quickly, and throw the Shadow Blade mindlessly. In this way, Qinfeng can get hundreds of millions of experience points for free every day. So, Qinfeng immediately started to implement it. He replaced the Judgment Blade with another legendary dagger. The special effect is Chain Reaction. When killing a target, it will generate arc damage connected to up to 8 targets within 50 meters around. This dagger is just right for the infinite projectile of the Shadow Blade, as long as the damage is high enough. It is equivalent to increasing the projectile distance of the Shadow Blade from 20 meters to 50 meters. This equipment more is better. No matter what you do, you can choose the most suitable equipment. Qinfeng nodded with satisfaction. Then, he temporarily swallowed his disappearance skill with the Soul Devourer bloodline. This skill passively makes his body explode after death. Then he can't be a puppet, and the effect of this skill is not a buff state. Qinfeng can't stop it from taking effect. He can only swallow it first and release it after the job is done. Everything is ready. Qinfeng came to the room where the strange fairy Yuan was. It turned out that this sister was actually sleeping. When Qinfeng entered the door, the fairy opened her purple eyes, wrapped herself in a black robe, and stood up. Qinfeng didn't care, and said directly, "Sister Yuan, please do me a favor." The fairy tilted her head. "Are you going to crush the equipment again?" Qinfeng. "Wait a minute. Kill me first." Fairy. Her purple eyes showed surprise. This is the first time I've seen such a request." Qinfeng smiled. "That can only mean that you are not very experienced. In fact, Qinfeng has many ways to die. But the reason why he asked this fairy to do it is because Qinfeng wanted to see how strong such a high-level NPC is, whether he can kill him, and how long it would take to kill him. In the last life, no one had killed a high-level NPC, so he now urgently needs to measure his own combat power. Hearing Qinfeng's request, a hint of playfulness appeared in the purple eyes of the black-robed fairy. She licked her lips. "Your request is very unique. Are you sure you want your sister to kill you?" Qinfeng. "Sure." "Come." Crack, crack. In the black-robed fairy's little hand, a whip condensed from lightning elements suddenly appeared, and it crackled in the air as soon as it appeared. Very good. Qinfeng's eyes lit up. That whip, no, electric whip, seems to be very exciting. He raised his hand and shot a shadow blade directly at the black-robed fairy. If he wanted the NPC to attack him, he had to make a move first and let the NPC enter a legitimate defense state. and just as Qin Feng expected, this shadow blade had no effect on the Fairy Yun at all. It just shot on her black robe and disappeared naturally. Tan Feng realized that her black robe was definitely a very advanced divine weapon. Just at the same time that Qin Feng made a move, crackling, bursts of electric sparks, accompanied by the Fairy Yuan's electric whip, enveloped Qin Feng. In less than 1 second, Qin Feng's eyes went black. You were killed by the stray Fairy Yuan?
That's done.
Qin Feng was resurrected at the nearby teleportation array. He ran back to the room where the Fairy Yuan was as soon as he entered the door. He saw that the fairy sister was squatting next to his body, looking at him curiously. No way. Sister Yuan, do you want to take advantage of the situation? Qin Feng was shocked. Yuan's purple eyes showed disgust. Get lost. Sister is just curious about what you want to do with your body. In fact, Qin Feng was also a little shocked. He wanted to see if the other party could kill him, but he didn't expect that he would be killed in seconds. It's worthy of being a high-level NPC. The attack speed of this fairy is too fast. It's obviously a magic profession. But with an electric whip in hand, it actually launched dozens of attacks in 1 seconds. Each electric whip attack will trigger hundreds of electric spark at up to tens of thousands of attack frequency. The shield against damage can be said to be broken instantly, even with an extremely high dodge rate of 892%. He was hit more than 900 times in an instant, which shows that the hit correction of this fairy is close to 5,000%. The most important thing is Qin Feng's Shadow Arc failed to take effect, or it took effect, but not completely. Originally, his damage delay was 3 seconds, but after being attacked by the fairy kite, his effect was shortened to 1 seconds. Because of this, he lasted for 1 seconds. Otherwise, he couldn't even last 1 seconds. Is this some kind of order? Or the effect of divine armament? Shorten the duration of all the buff states on me, and shorten it by 30 times. As for the opponent's damage, there is no need to say. Every time the electric spark hits, the damage directly reaches Qin Feng's injury limit. You must know that Qin Feng's resistance to lightning elements is very high. There is also a high damage reduction, etc. That is to say, a random whip of the kite fairy is dozens of attacks, and then tens of thousands of electric sparks burst out, and the basic damage of each electric spark is at least tens of millions. This is still the least, because Qin Feng has a limit of injury, so he doesn't know how high the damage of the opponent's electric sparks is. Is this fairy also cheating? Super high damage, super fast attack speed, hundreds of whips per second. Qin Feng can only say, exciting. Looking at Qin Feng's reaction, the Fairy Yuan showed a smile in her purple eyes. Don't worry, you will be stronger than your sister in the future. Otherwise, your sister will not follow you. Hearing this, Qin Feng always felt a little weird. How did it become following me? He shook his head. In fact, he knew that this fairy was too high level, which caused the crushing effect. Besides, now he just stood still and let her whip. If it really comes to a life and death fight, Qin Feng will have many more tricks. Thinking of this, Qin Feng suddenly blends into the darkness. Although he doesn't run at the speed of sound, he also has a level 60 stealth level. Sister Yuan, can you see where I am? After Qin Feng said this, he instantly used a shadow fold to move to another location. I can't see. The fairy chuckled. But suddenly, Qin Feng felt a pair of hands covering his eyes. Guess who I am? Qin Feng held those hands and moved them away, only to see the black-robed fairy in front of him suddenly turned into a black mist and dissipated. He turned around and saw the Fairy Yuan standing behind him, looking at him with a smile. Oh my god, can't you see it? Qin Feng was a little embarrassed. Level 60 stealth level is not enough. Wrong. The fairy shook her head and stretched out her finger to shake it in front of him. This is not what I saw, but what I felt. Okay, let's deal with your body quickly. Otherwise, if it gets cold, we can't take it while it's hot. Qin Feng never expected that this girl would actually return his words. However, Qin Feng also realized this fairy was not just joking or playing with him. Instead, she was reminding him there are still abilities in this world that can restrain his current method, so I must collect sublimation scrolls and divine weapons. Only with more order and rules in hand can we cope with various abilities, and more order and rules naturally come from more boss soon. Qin Feng and the Kite Fairy came to his body together. The player's body will only exist for 5 minutes, and the basic skill release time of Abyss Puppet Curse is 3 minutes. Qin Feng was not in a hurry, because with his agility, his skill release speed was dozens of times faster, after just over 10 seconds. The corpse in front of Qin Feng was directly made into an Abyss Puppet by him, except that the Blade of Judgment was replaced with a Chain Reaction Dagger, and the 3 skills, Gift of Liberation, Source of the Upper Level, and Shadow Folding were not copied. The rest were exactly the same as Qin Feng's original combat power. If the Abyss Puppet Curse is upgraded to the Immortal level, wouldn't those 3 skills also be copied? Then it would be basically the same as my original combat power. Of course, if it is used for leveling now, the requirements do not need to be so high. The evolution of the Abyss skill from the Ancient level to the Immortal level requires 50,000 evolution points. If there are so many points, Qin Feng will definitely give priority to evolving Blessing of the Thunder Fairy and the like. Soon, a white-masked assassin puppet wearing black leather armor and with the lower body shrouded in smoke appeared in front of Qin Feng. This is an Abyss puppet that is completely under his control. If it were an ordinary person, it would be difficult to act and control the puppet at the same time if the spiritual attribute was not high. But for Qin Feng, it was not difficult. Qin Feng controlled the shadow puppet and let it leave the room. Then, Qin Feng looked back at the fairy Yuan wrapped in a black robe. Come on, Sister Yuan, it's time to change clothes. Qin Feng still had a lot of legendary or even mythical equipment on him. These equipment, to be honest, there is almost no equipment that cannot be used. Each piece taken out is no different from a divine weapon for the current Blue Star players. The kind that can increase a person's combat power several times. It's a pity that the required level of these equipment is 2830 and no one can use them at present. Except for Qin Feng at level 30, the highest level of other players in Blue Star is Ghost Spirit, who is only level to 1 now. Occasionally, there are a few top powerhouses who have reached level 20. It is also very likely that the 4th career advancement was abandoned. In short, it will take 1 year after the godforsaken game is launched for the Vanguard to reach level 30, even if there are NPCs that can lower the required level of equipment. The lower limit of the level of legendary equipment is also 20 levels, so Qin Feng only left some legendary equipment with better attributes for the official, and then downgraded them. As for the other equipment, they were all smashed by Qin Feng and converted into current combat power. For Qin Feng's request, the fairy sister was very obedient. One set of equipment was replaced after another, and then it was smashed by Qin Feng. Half an hour later, Qin Feng left the room of the kite fairy, refreshed. Now, find a place for my puppet to squat and kill monsters, and then go find the Moon Queen. Virginie? At present, Qin Feng's focus must be on the judgment. The main legendary boss is not so easy to encounter. I have to first raise the upper limit of my divinity to 300 points to be able to judge Qin Xiaoyu at the same time. Qin Xiaoyu in the dark area of the judgment place. She died in despair in the prison and thought that everything was over. But suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her mind, accompanied by a series of extremely clear memory images emerging from her mind. I'm not dead, in Qin Xiaoyu's mind. 2 memories intertwined, giving her a splitting headache, but after realizing that she didn't seem to be dead, she felt overjoyed. Is this really going to be reborn? She became extremely excited. She found that one of the 2 memories in her mind was exactly her experience in this life. At the same time, the originally vague memory became clear. The memory pictures of the previous life and this life appeared at the same time. Compare in front of her. When the godforsaken game just came. In this life, Qin Feng ignored her at all and didn't even send her a message. In the previous life, Qin Feng took the initiative to come to the school to find her, apologized to her, and persuaded her to invite back home. This is what a man should do. Qin Feng is too stingy now. Besides, he has been reborn as a shadow. He can make me live a good life with just a few words. But he ignored me so heartless. In this life, she was wandering alone in the godforsaken game. She had no one to rely on, and her development in the game was not good. In reality, she was cheated in selling a house and her legs were sawed off. But in the memory of the previous life, she was protected by Qin Feng from beginning to end. The scene in the memory made her feel as if she was there, and she was extremely envious. Of course, she was still very pretentious in the picture. Although Qin Feng protected her, no matter what she did, she would dislike Qin Feng, compare him with others, and always talk about wanting freedom. But it seems that Qin Feng didn't care about me much, just didn't let me team up with other bad guys. Qin Xiaoyu was stunned. It was not until the memory became clear that she really realized it. Compared with this life, she was obviously much happier in her last life. It can be said that she had basically no worries. If there were any worries such as lack of freedom, they were all forced by her. If Qin Feng still protected me like in the last life, I would not be caught by the bad guys. It's all Qin Feng's fault. Qin Xiaoyu still remembers the time when she faced the chainsaw killer. And now she thinks back. The one who saved her from the chainsaw killer seemed to be a female assassin named Ghost. This is the news she heard from the official later. And she also heard that this ghost was very close to Shadow and was taken care of by Shadow. Don't support me. Go support other girls. Qin Feng, are you still a human? At this time, Qin Xiaoyu did not feel the slightest gratitude to the ghost as a lifesaver, but instead felt a kind of mockery, treating the other party as someone who had snatched her brother away. Qin Feng, you asked her to save me. Right. You still care about me. But why didn't you care about me at the last moment? Qin Xiaoyu's hatred grew stronger and stronger, and as the memory continued, Qin Xiaoyu also learned. The ghost in the previous life was actually a criminal who had committed a mistake and had been hunted down by the Daxia government. At this time, Qin Xiaoyu's mentality began to change. The detailed memories from the previous life awakened her feelings, personality, and thoughts. When she looked at the memories of the previous life with the eyes of this life, she also began to look at the experiences of this life with the eyes of the previous life. 2 experiences, 2 memories, gradually merged into one. The memory is clear. I am back. Qin Xiaoyu's mood gradually became indifferent and calm. Although the memories have not been integrated to the end, she knows that the final outcome of the previous life is that she dug out Qin Feng's eyes, and she still did not repent. She felt that all that was Qin Feng's fault. Why do you want to stop me and Brother Song Fei? If you don't stop me, I won't dig your eyes. I'm just pursuing my own love and freedom. Am I wrong? From the perspective of the previous life, she gradually recalled the memories of this life, Song Fei's death, severing ties with Qin Feng. Gen Shishi's death, Hu Keban's death. Even, she paid attention to the Nightmare Hellflower incident. In the previous life, Daxia was clearly tricked by the North American diplomat Theodore. But in this life, it was a perfect counterattack, and Shadow took the first kill of the Nightmare Hellflower, Qinfeng. You are reborn? You took off by yourself and left me behind. Hin Xiaoyu sneered secretly. If you were Shadow and took care of me, I might still recognize you as my brother. But now, when her memories start to merge, she didn't know where she was, but she was eager to move, and had a hunch that she might be reborn again. Qinfeng. This time I am reborn with my memories. I will not give you the chance to abandon me. I will take the initiative to apologize. This time, it will be my home court. Qin Xiaoyu couldn't help thinking. But as the memories continued to merge, she had a vague feeling that it was not good, because she hadn't seen what happened after she gave Qinfeng's eyeball to Songfei. I must have lived happily with brother Songfei. Qin Xiaoyu thought so. But deep in her heart, she was getting more and more scared. She was afraid that things did not develop as she imagined. Impossible. Brother Songfei will definitely take care of me. He said he has liked me for a long time. I believe him. In the next life, I will definitely protect my brother Songfei. She believed. She firmly believed. She looked forward to it. She wanted to see the memory of her and Songfei living happily together. Only in this way could she prove that her choice was correct. Otherwise, if she killed Qinfeng, who took care of her and protected her, wouldn't she become a clown? I can never be a clown. At this time, Daxia Game Area, Demon City Ruins, outside the Tower of Divine Power. There were already crowds of people outside the Tower of Divine Power where the Moon Queen Virginie was. Especially in the past 2 days, more and more people came. Because someone finally discovered that as long as you call Mom in the Tower of Divine Power, you can get the Book of Divine Power for free. But here comes the key. Only when a man and a woman enter can such an option be triggered. And this is definitely a difficult challenge for many players. Because in order to obtain the right to purchase the Book of Divine Power, you must kill the gold level Moon Queen clone, with only one man and one woman. If you want to kill the gold level boss, it requires a lot of personal strength from the player. At this stage, there are many players in Demon City who can do this, but most of them have already obtained the Book of Divine Revelation, so there is no need to do it again. If you have that time, you can kill more monsters and level up more, which will obviously bring higher returns. Of course, there are also many powerful people who choose to come here to charge high fees to bring people. As long as the fee is cheaper than the normal purchase of the Book of Divine Revelation, someone will pay. In the midst of this noisy voice, a giant bone sword pterosaur with a length of more than 20 meters, like a whirlwind, suddenly landed at the entrance of the Tower of Divine Power. This scene made everyone around put down what they were doing. They looked over in surprise and doubt. It was raining in the ruins of the Magic City today. When Qinfeng rode Osiris to the Tower of Divine Authority, he found that there were many players outside the tower, queuing and forming teams in the rain, wanting to enter the Tower of Divine Authority. Either male players were looking for female companions, or female players were looking for male companions. Moreover, the slogans for seeking team members are a bit exaggerated. Level 16 Priest. 2,000 DPS. Find a brother with more than 8,000 DPS? He must be able to dodge skills without taking any damage. I can only heal myself. If you want to rely on my healing to survive, Crawl. Level 18 Shooter. Find a sister who is agile and can dodge skills without taking any damage to cooperate with me. I have 5,000 DPS, and I hope you can do the same. Level 17 Mage. Find a brother who can protect me. With more than 5,000 DPS, I have 5,000 DPS, but I am not agile enough. And I can't dodge some skills. If you can't guarantee that I will not take any damage, don't get involved. Level 18 Professional Nurse. Find a sister with more than 10,000 DPS. As long as you are not killed in seconds, you can be kept alive throughout the whole process. Level 20 Gold Level Boss. The clone of the Moon Queen. If you want to kill it, the team's DPS of 10,000 is the basic requirement. Otherwise, the mechanism in the middle will not be able to handle it in time, and the whole team will definitely be wiped out in the end. So it is actually quite high to assign it to one man and one woman. If we calculate by DPS, at this stage, the top official players in Daxia have DPS exceeding 100,000, including Anyu and Wanye Weiyu, with the support of equipment. They are currently clearing the boss smoothly and developing very quickly. But apart from that, even those with DPS exceeding 10,000 are already considered strong. You know, when Qinfeng killed the epic giant octopus, Anyu, Heibulin Dalizi, and Jia Shuitian only had DPS of 30,000 to 50,000, while Guiling had DPS of over 100,000. For other players, the proportion of players with DPS exceeding 10,000 does not exceed 1%. For these players, they naturally don't think much of these 9 divine books for free. It's better to kill more monsters instead of worrying about it, and you can earn back the lifespan you save. Therefore, it is not easy for players to find a partner teammate who meets the requirements outside the Tower of Divine Power. Basically, they have high requirements for each other and low requirements for themselves. Before Qinfeng landed, he saw a lot of slogans from players. Some people seem to have been looking for teammates for a long time, but they haven't found any. Such people may be called leftover men and women. Looking at those slogans, which were more exaggerated than the other, Qinfeng was speechless. No wonder I'm left alone. A normal player with enough strength would have found teammates of similar strength to challenge. How could I be left alone for so long? Look at it from another angle. Since the launch of the God-Forsaken game, all normal players have their own social circles and guild circles. Those who are really strong have already matched with acquaintances, even if some acquaintances have already beaten them. It's okay to ask acquaintances for help and form a team. As for those who come to find them outside, there are more or less some problem. In Qinfeng's opinion, if you can't beat them, you still hope to find a stronger teammate. Why should they lead you? It's better to kill more monsters, grow more, and come back when you become stronger. Outside the Tower of Divine Authority, there are still some people who are calling for paid escorts. As long as they pay 3 to 5 years of life, a strongman will take them in one-on-one to get 9 divine books for free. Although they have to pay, it is much cheaper than paying for divine books. Occasionally, some people are willing to take care of the business. When Qinfeng came here, he did not enter the Tower of Divine Authority directly. On the one hand, there are people in the tower challenging now, and the door of the Tower of Divine Authority is closed. On the other hand, Qinfeng saw a young man setting up a stall next to him. It was that young man who caught Qinfeng's attention. He was a young man wearing a platinum-level robe. He didn't look very old, but his head was codenamed Tianjixing, the leader of the Abyss 9 in the previous life. Qinfeng's face was a little strange. The Abyss 9 in the previous life was a famously powerful guild in Daxia, although there were only 9 people, because each of them had an Abyss Curse skill. Their overall strength was extremely strong. The 9 people of the Abyss have a strong say in Daxia, and the leader is this Tianjixing. But in this life, this young man did not have the opportunity to get the Abyss face, but he actually set up a stall here to sell magic potions. The reason why Qinfeng noticed him was because the name of his stall was Magic Potions that increase damage to women, which can be effective against the clones of the Moon Queen, Tianjixing. His profession is an alchemist, but he can perform professional alchemy, that is to say, he can refine himself into any profession. But the skill effect of that profession is only 80% effective. Once you choose a profession to refine, it is basically fixed because the cost of changing professions is very high, and all previous equipment and skills will be invalid. At the same time, alchemists can also refine all kinds of strange potions. The potion that increases damage to women is just one of them. Others include increasing damage to men, reducing damage to women, reducing damage to men, increasing damage to boss, and so on. Because the challenge goal of the Tower of Divine Power is to defeat the clone of the Moon Queen. So, this guy came here to sell potions that increase damage to women. Very business-minded, Qinfeng thought. He could buy more potions of various types from this guy and save them for later use. Although the damage increase is not much, it is an independent damage increase area after all, and it may be used someday. But at this moment, Tianjixing is not in a good situation because in front of his stall, more than a dozen female players are gathering and launching terrible verbal attacks on him. What do you mean? This potion increases damage to women, and it discriminates against women. You are so brave. If this potion enters the market, how much harm will it do to us women? Don't sell it. Do you hear me? Tianjixing. Right? I will remember you. If I see you selling this shit potion again, our Roseflower Guild will declare war on your guild. Too outrageous. Shrimp head man. You want to oppress us women, right? Tornado slash. As a female player swung the sword in her hand, she actually destroyed the stall in front of the young man. More than 10 bottles of magic potions were broken one after another, and the light blue potion flowed all over the floor. How could Tianjixing have seen such a scene? The young man was confused. He never expected that selling magic potions could attract a group of crazy people. But the situation was stronger than the person. His professional strength was not high, not to mention that the other party had too many people. He really had no choice. He could only be submissive and planned to swallow his anger. Pack up and leave. Qinfeng saw it and sighed a little. If this Tianjixing was the leader of the Abyss 9 in the previous life, one skill could sweep all the female players. Why would they complain here? Just at this time, Qinfeng came on Osiris. It attracted everyone's attention at once, and Qinfeng, with the black wings representing death behind him spread out, instantly landed next to Tianjixing. Brother, give me some magic potions? Osiryu's arrival and Qinfeng's appearance immediately set off the scene. Looking at Qinfeng's cold and handsome figure, with 6 wings flapping behind him, a deathly aura all over his body, and the word shadow on his head, many people around him fell into a frenzy.